My heart was racing as I pulled up to the house on Willow Lane. It was a beautiful Victorian-style house with a wraparound porch and tall stained glass windows. The house was a little run down, but it had a certain charm that drew me in. I had always been fascinated by old houses, and this one had caught my eye as soon as I saw the for sale sign. The real estate agent had told me that the house had been on the market for months, but no one seemed interested in it. I couldn't understand why. To me, it was a dream come true. As I walked up to the porch, I noticed that the front door was slightly ajar. I pushed it open and stepped inside. The foyer was dark and dusty, with cobwebs in the corners. I breathed in the musty smell of old wood and plaster. I walked through the house, taking in the grand staircase, the elegant dining room, and the cozy library. It was clear that the house had once been magnificent, but now it was in need of some serious TLC. But I was up for the challenge. I spent the next few weeks restoring the house to its former glory. I cleaned the cobwebs, refinished the floors, and repainted the walls. It was hard work, but I loved every minute of it. As I worked, I felt as though the house was coming back to life. But then strange things started happening. Doors would open and close on their own. Footsteps could be heard in the halls, even though I was the only one in the house. And then one night, I saw a figure in the hallway. At first, I thought it was just my imagination, but then I saw it again. A shadowy figure moving down the hall. I followed it, but it disappeared into thin air. I tried to ignore the strange occurrences, telling myself that I was just imagining things. But then, one day, I found an old journal hidden in a drawer in the library. It belonged to the previous owner of the house, a woman named Emily. As I read through the journal, I realized that Emily had been deeply troubled. She had been convinced that the house was haunted by a malevolent spirit and that it was trying to harm her. She had even gone so far as to hire a team of paranormal investigators to try and rid the house of the spirit. I didn't know what to make of it. On the one hand, I didn't believe in ghosts or spirits, but on the other hand, the strange occurrences in the house were becoming harder and harder to ignore. One night as I lay in bed, I heard the sound of a child's laughter. It was coming from the room next door. I got up and went to investigate, but the room was empty. I felt a chill run down my spine as I realized that the laughter had come from an old photograph on the dresser, a photograph of a young girl with piercing green eyes. I decided that it was time to call in the experts. I contacted a team of paranormal investigators and asked them to come to the house. They arrived a few days later, armed with cameras, recorders, and other equipment. As they began their investigation, I watched nervously from the sidelines. They explored every inch of the house, looking for any sign of paranormal activity. And then they found something. In the basement, they discovered an old hidden room. It was small and cramped with bare walls and a dirt floor. It was clear that no one had been in there for years. As the investigators examined the room, they found something that made their blood run cold. A small, tattered doll with its eyes gouged out. One of the investigators, a tall man with a thick beard, picked up the doll and examined it closely. He muttered something under his breath, then turned to me. "This doll," he said, his voice low and serious. "It's cursed. Someone used it to summon a spirit, a malevolent one, and it's still here in this house." I felt a lump form in my throat. This was all too much to handle. I had always been a skeptic when it came to the supernatural, but now I was faced with undeniable evidence. The investigators set up cameras and recording equipment in the house, hoping to capture any evidence of paranormal activity. They also suggested that I stay out of the house for a few nights, just to be safe. I took their advice and stayed in a hotel for a few nights. But even from a distance, I could feel the house calling to me. It was as if it wanted me to come back, to face whatever was haunting it. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I returned to the house, determined to find out what was going on. As soon as I stepped inside, I could feel the presence of something dark and sinister. The air was thick with an eerie energy. I walked through the house, my heart pounding in my chest. I could hear whispers and murmurs coming from the walls, and the dolls and toys that I had left lying around seemed to move on their own. And then, I saw her. The little girl from the photograph. She was standing at the top of the staircase, her green eyes staring at me with an otherworldly intensity. I froze, unable to move or speak, and then she began to walk down, her footsteps echoing through the empty house. As she reached the bottom of the stairs, she spoke in a low, whispery voice. "Please help me," she said. "I've been trapped here for so long." I didn't know what to do. I felt a deep sense of compassion for the little girl, but I also knew that I was in way over my head. And then the door to the hidden room in the basement opened, and a dark, malevolent spirit emerged. It was like nothing I had ever seen before. A swirling mass of black smoke with glowing red eyes. The little girl let out a scream, and I knew that I had to act fast. I grabbed the cursed doll from the investigator's bag and held it up. "Take it!" I shouted at the spirit. "Take it and leave this place!" The spirit hesitated for a moment, then swooped down and snatched the doll from my hand. And then, just like that, it was gone, vanished into thin air. I was left standing in the empty house, my heart racing and my mind reeling. I didn't know what had just happened, but I knew that I had come face to face with something truly evil. I left the house on Willow Lane that night, never to return again. But the memory of that dark, haunted house stayed with me, haunting me like a ghost. And I knew that I would never be able to forget the little girl with the piercing green eyes and the malevolent spirit that had almost claimed her soul.